Everyone, and welcome to the webinar from Real Patient Ratings. Thank you for your time, and I hope we'll give you some thoughts today that will be very beneficial. Our topic is fast, fresh first aid for your reputation, and 3 steps to make it easy for consumers to choose you. If you have to leave the broadcast at any point, we will be recording the webinar for reference and sending a link for follow-up. We will have a Q&A session, and you can put questions in the control panel to reach us. So here we go. And first, a little bit about myself. I actively run a large cosmetic surgery practice in La Jolla, California. And as of last year, we added a med spa, and we were both our practice and our med spa were voted best in San Diego by the Union Tribune Readers Poll. I'm the founder of Real Patient Ratings, and I did so basically over my complete frustration with the problem of getting accurate ratings and reviews to reflect the quality of our practice. And I serve on the advisory board of the Center for Services Leadership, which is a business school that focuses on the science of service. And so underlying reviews and reputation is customer satisfaction, patient satisfaction. And so we have to understand that we're going to get good reviews when patients are happy with their service experience with us, and we're going to get less than stellar reviews when they're disappointed. And so we want to have insight into their experience with us so that we can have a higher likelihood of getting positive reviews. And my husband and I wrote Cosmetic Surgery for Dummies, and many years ago, 20 years ago actually, I was the creator of the first CRM software, customer relationship management software in cosmetic surgery. And of course, what are we doing when we're trying to manage a patient relationship or a customer relationship? We're trying to create an experience, the early stages of which results in someone deciding to make an appointment, keep an appointment, schedule a treatment or procedure, be satisfied with the quality of that experience, remain in the practice themselves, refer their friends and family, and return for future services. This is a wonderful Yogi Berra quote, which I think always applies. You've got to be very careful. If you don't know where you're going, you might get there. And when you think about the parts of your practice where you feel out of control to you, and particularly in reputation management or in the marketing or sales components of the practice, if there's a part that feels out of control, then what I would ask you is, what is your strategy for that component? Where are the aspects where you do have a plan and where you do have a sense of control? Because otherwise you're going to end up with this feeling that you're in a place that you didn't know you would be, and it's because you don't have a strategy and a plan. So we're in a new world. And I'm just going to take you on a little trip on memory lane here real quickly. And we need new rules and we need new strategies. And I'm not embarrassed in elective medicine to use the term selling. People are coming to us. We're not selling in the used car dealer sense. We're not going out and hitting people. You know, we're not cold calling, we're not getting people off the street and dragging them into our practices. They are self-selecting, they're deciding something that's bothering them, they're reaching out to us to help them determine if they're a candidate and if we have a solution that's going to work for them. But the world's evolving, and our strategies for meeting their needs have to evolve as well. And this process is moving faster than ever, and it is changing with the times, and we have to have the ability to change with it. And I think that you need to understand how quickly it's changing, and your method of adapting to it must be at a pace with the delivery of the change in the systems. So let's just look through the decades. In the 80s, we ran Yellow Page ads, and the patient looked in the Yellow Pages, and then they called us. And it was about having a big Yellow Page ad, and frankly, about knowing how to answer the phone. And we were just learning what we had to mail back or how we had to follow up in order to monetize the value of that ad. And then in the 90s, more marketing expanded. We went into newspapers and magazines. Still, they were looking at our ads then. They were still calling. Phone effectiveness was important. In fact, when we first started marketing, my husband was called before the California Society of the Plastic Surgery Society for running ads, and I remember him saying, "I feel like I'm on it. Do You Beat Your Wife panel." And his belief was that there are many patients making decisions about doctors by using ads, and why not have board-certified plastic surgeons with certified facilities being one of the people out there advertising. And we were very successful at this for a very long time, and we were quite dominant, and we were able to be dominant by our size and by our marketing budget. And then the 2000s came along, and websites entered, and now suddenly the change happened. Patients also found us via websites, and now they began emailing us as well. And so now we had to have strategies both to respond to emails, and suddenly we had to have content strategies for our websites. And so this made it more complex, and this website strategy continues to this day. And what our searches are, what our content is, how patients use our websites. And now, as we enter the current day, another twist is added to how are they searching for those websites, and specifically, how are they using reviews? And the technology component of it is that they are using smartphones. I don't know your practice statistics, but this is something I keep up with. We have a little over a third of our patients reaching us initially via smartphone, about 15% via tablet, and then 50% coming from desktop. And some practices have as much as 50% from smartphones. So they're looking us up on review searches. And we've known this for several years, that they were doing review searches, and we know those review searches were growing, but there is this communication revolution. Our marketplace is changing, and our marketing needs to change. The content of our website needs to change. But just last month, a stunning new report came out from Bright Local, and Bright Local does search for several thousand communities, and this is on the left is Pew Research in 2011, when we formed Real Patient Ratings. And at that point, Pew reported that 12% of adults at least looked at ratings and reviews as a part of their process of of evaluating medical providers. So it was still quite small. 88% of Americans were not using ratings and reviews. And yet here we are in 2014 with 88% of consumers using ratings and reviews, doctor plus review searches, to make decisions about physicians. And so what does this say about our marketing strategy and what we must do to make sure that we're ready for this huge change in how consumers are buying? And so if you think about marketing, um, everything we do with marketing is to try and get the consumer to act. And what this ratings data says is the consumer is acting. Now, what we have to do is to get in the middle of that action and provide them what they want and what they're looking for. And to the extent that we don't have and provide what they're looking for, or we depend on third-party sites to provide what they're looking for, then we disadvantage ourselves in their choice. And so the other part is that because of the way the internet has changed how patients gather information, they used to need us to find out about procedures. And now they can go on the internet, they can begin to do the search themselves, and they can begin to gather the information. They can become aware of who provides the procedure. And this may, if we look at that spectrum from non-invasive to invasive that they're considering, then they begin to look at specialties, they begin to look at practices, they begin to narrow that down, and they still may have not contacted anyone while they're doing their research, as they call it. And they keep narrowing it. And they may not have gotten in the car yet, they may not have gotten on the phone yet, they may not have filled out a contact form. And then they're down to the consideration set, and then to the choice set. And that choice set, the use of reviews, it is much harder to get to that choice set without reviews, because they're using reviews, that doctor search, to get to the choice set. So it's imperative that each of you know for your practice, for your physician, what a review search is going to look like, and that you control it as much as is humanly possible. And so let me just show you then what the research would look like in terms of searches. So they're going to do online procedure research. They might simultaneously or subsequently do offline conversations, and this is the old-fashioned stuff that they were doing 20 years ago, talking to friends and family, maybe talking to their physicians, trying to decide who are the good guys that they want to be considering. Then they would begin review searches by doctor type, by specialty, and then down to the individual doctor reviews that have made it through the review searches. And then finally, all of this may occur, again, making the point that this will occur before contact with your office. And it's imperative that you understand this massive change in when the contact is occurring with your office. And so because consumers have so many choices, and because how they're shopping is changing so much, we, the smart practices, have to adjust the way we sell to the way that consumers want to buy. And for 25 years, what I have said about the way that I market this practice is to say I try to understand where the consumer is and to move our practice to her. That nothing, it's a waste of time and money for me to try and bring the consumer to me. It's just faster, easier, and more effective to figure out where she is and go to her. And so that is what I'm recommending to you. If 88% of consumers are using ratings and reviews to buy, then that's where you want to be. If you're already our client, then let's talk about optimally using the reviews in every way throughout your website and your sales process. And then if you're not our client, then you want to really understand how you can add ratings and reviews as a part of your marketing and sales process. And the number one rule of successful marketing is to get found. And that's going to be to get found on that Google search. The second fact of marketing is that what we say about ourselves is not as believable as what our customer says about us. In fact, it's a term that's called social proof. And this is true throughout all of social media. So getting content that you can put on your website or on third-party sites in terms of review sites where your patient is speaking for you is incredibly more powerful than anything that you can say about yourself. And this is another form of social proof. It's a cute image to help you remember. It's, herd behavior. People, when people are provided with social proof, they're more likely to adopt a business or practice that has provided lots of social proof, or they get on the bandwagon, as it were. Now, it's everywhere. We first learned of social proof related to products, and we came to trust social proof related to Amazon. We learned that we could look at a distribution of reviews, and we could read reviews from hundreds of other consumers, and it could inform our decision making. We could make better decisions by this process of the input from the community at large. And indeed, I'll show you in a few minutes, we have just made our ratings distribution visible on the new Real Patient Ratings site, and we are enabling consumers to search by the ratings ranking. And there's I don't know if you've had the experience of reading one-star reviews in order to try and decide to choose a product, but frequently they're very valuable, and they help you actually decide to buy the product, even though the reviewer intends and chose not to buy the product. But we had a patient write a one-star review about a doctor, and her complaint was that he would not put in breast implants that he considered would be inappropriate for her size. And so she went on and on about he would not put in these huge implants. And so, anyone else reading that review would go, well, this is the guy I want to go to because what she was asking for was inappropriate. And so just the ability to have and to be able to read a group of ratings is very important. There's a study out of Stanford called the blemish effect that says if you have all 5-star reviews, they're not believable. The consumer wants to see a range of ratings to be able to look at them themselves and then make a decision. And in fact, having a variety of ratings actually increases likelihood to buy. It doesn't decrease likelihood to buy. So reviews alone, while the content's helpful, and I encourage you to take this wonderful content and sprinkle it throughout your website, it is, and it's persuasive. If what you're trying to do with ratings, with reviews, is to convert your website into contact forms, what you want to use is the ratings as well. And ratings quantify and make reviews believable. So here's the point that I just made. And also that quantity of reviews is extremely important. And I'm going to show you that here in a moment also. The other point is freshness. And if you think about looking at restaurant reviews, for instance, and you're trying to decide where to go to dinner, and several restaurants have similar overall ratings, and yet the reviews for one restaurant are all 3 years old and the other restaurants are very recent reviews, you would probably exclude the restaurant with the old reviews, not knowing what that restaurant is like today. So any reviews benefit from being fresh, and so it's an ongoing effort, and unfortunately it takes a lot of effort, and getting reviews on especially third-party sites, depending on the site, does take a practice effort. But given how much dependence consumers have on them and how important they consider them to be, it's not something that you can ignore. So I thought I would talk to you for a minute about the evolution of the review sites. Now, the first generation sites are RateMDs, Vitals, and Health Grades. And these are what I call open systems where anyone can post. You just come in there, you post. There's no attempt really to determine whether you're an actual patient of the site. And indeed, RateMDs did a study of almost 400,000 patients over several years, and the average rating on RateMD was a 3.9 or a C+, which I don't know about any of you, but I would not be very happy if our doctors were a C+. And contrast that with real patient ratings, where our average rating is 17% higher than that. So eliminating the false reviewers brings doctors into the A standard. So the 2.0 sites, these I call 2.0 are Yelp, Google+, and RealSelf. All these sites require you to create an account and verify your identity. Now, they can still be fake. I face with Yelp all the time. I've had ex-employees, one of our doctor's ex-wives. I have competitors doing reviews on Yelp. They have some attempts to let me complain about the reviews, and they do take some of them down. Yelp has an algorithm to supposedly filter the suspicious reviews, and it's impossible. They just took their ratings distribution down. They had it up for a long time. They do show the ratings distributions of their individual members, but it's difficult for the consumer to be anonymous, and 2 of these 3 sites are supported by advertising revenue. And I don't know if you saw that Yelp just won a 9th Circuit appeal that says that it can change ratings if it wants, related to advertising revenue. So that means it's even less credible, but it has so much market share that it cannot be ignored. So then the third generation sites are what I'm call closed sites. They are 100% verified systems where only real patients can participate. Real Patients was the first of these. Patient Pad is another example, and both Demand Force and Solution Reach are software examples that contain closed systems of verified reviews. Now, our advice to you relating to your strategy for reviews is that you need to have you need to internally focus on getting Google Plus, Real Self to the degree that you're active in Real Self, and Yelp reviews. I don't think you should avoid any of these sites because they are important sites to consumers. And so, basically you would continue, ask for these reviews, Google Plus, anybody with a Gmail account, Real Self, you can just ask your patients, are you active on Real Self? And Yelp, are you a Yelper? Because Yelp doesn't publish reviews of new participants to Yelp very easily. Then use a third generation system to then invite all your patients to participate. And this would follow up including all of your patients who might have already posted on one of the second generation sites. And unless you have issues and your patients are talking to you about the first generation sites, I personally don't think they're important enough to expend a lot of energy on. But I never hear about them from our patients, and I think they're more of a factor in general medicine than in cosmetic medicine. Oops. All right. One of the important facts that makes cosmetic medicine so different is the need for privacy and anonymity. And I think that this is why it is so hard for us to get people to post on any site that requires them to give their identity. And so we're really running an uphill battle when we ask them to go to any of what I call the second generation sites. But despite that, there are people who are so loyal to you, or who one of my friends said, who are enough of an exhibitionist that they're willing to go to a public site, be associated with a cosmetics treatment or cosmetic surgery review. And so you really need to actively be on the lookout for this, and just don't let yourself not have an active program of asking patients for these reviews, because these are significant sites and they have lots of visitors, and you need reviews on these sites. So the quantity of reviews is important, and unfortunately you're not going to get a lot of reviews on those sites for just the reasons that I've discussed. And quantity leads to trust, which leads to faster conversions. And you want the conversions, obviously, to occur on your own website, which is why you want the content on your website. And you want to be able to use links from your own website to increase scheduling rates, to be sure that patients prior to consultation read reviews, and you're giving them a link to your own website to have them do that. So here's some examples of the use of reviews and how the reviews uh, strike out. So here's Dr. Caravino, and he's in Houston, and he is a very busy plastic surgeon. And he has 5 reviews on Yelp. He has a 5.0. He's done very well on Google. He has 45 reviews on Google, 4.9, and 4.7 on Real Patient Ratings, with 412 surgery ratings. So you can imagine the amount of content that those 412 ratings across multiple procedures provide for his website. And so here's the link on a general search for his name if someone comes to Real Patient Ratings, but then this just shows you what can be picked up after his practice has already tried to get his patients to provide reviews to those second generation review sites. And then here's my own practice. We don't do so well on Yelp because we have a lot of false postings on Yelp that I haven't been able to get down. We have almost a third of our reviews are in 3, 2s, and 1s. And you can see, looking here, I only have 5% of my ratings on Real Patient Ratings in the 3, 2, 1 category. So that's from the real patients. But in the Yelp world, 33% are in the 3, 2s, and 1 category. So on Google, we have a 4.6 rating and from 19 reviews, and then 4.66 rating on Real Patient Ratings from 726 ratings. And again, if patients are looking for quantity, if they're looking for evidence of a busy practice and a trustworthy practice, and if they're looking for content to read what patients say about you, then obviously 726 comments are going to help you a lot more than 19 or 38. All right, and then here's a solo doctor, 3.5 on Yelp, 4.9 on Google, and a 4.78. Now I want to point out, if you haven't noticed this, that the Google rankings and the Real Patient Ratings rankings are very similar. And the Google process, we did a study, and the Google process really, there's only a 0.2 difference between the average rating on Real Patient Ratings and the average Google rating. So if you can really encourage your patients to post on Google, you're going to get a very accurate rating of your practice on Google. And so I was very interested to see that. But at the same time, it's, again, because of these privacy issues, over 50% of our members do not have a single review on Google+. So this hurdle of getting a patient to go public is a very great hurdle for cosmetic patients. So the question that we're so often asked is, how do I get more reviews on Google and Yelp? And so I think you have to acknowledge that it's going to be a very small percent, but you want to find those people, you want to actively look for them, and then you need a different system behind that because you want to meet the needs of consumers who are using reviews to make buying decisions. So when you talk about reviews being available to consumers, you are what you publish, and you get back what you put out on the web. And so we are helping you publish your reviews onto your own website. And what we see is still a fairly large percentage of our members do not use all of the widgets and things that we have available to get the reviews published around the site. And I really, if you come out of this with only one thing, I hope that it's a commitment to go back to your own website and expand the use of reviews, use those widgets, and expand the use of reviews throughout your site. So you all know to focus on the visual information, before and afters, videos, and infographics. We've been providing educational information, since the 80s. We've been providing things about ourselves, our bio, our practice values. But what others say about you is incredibly valuable content. And I don't know in your practice, in my practice, it's very hard to get anything written. It's a big hurdle for us. And the idea that I can just put a widget on any page and have that content be coming in automatically every time someone writes a review about our practice, it's extremely attractive to me. And the site's renewable. So here's an example of a page from our site so that you can see how these various aspects of content are used on a page. So we have social proof. We've got fresh social proof in terms of this is a review widget here that's being powered by Real Patient Ratings. And because we're a group, it doesn't have the ratings count on it, but if you're a solo, it does. And then here's some visual proof, and here's some cost info, which is another high driver of consumer interest. So you can see from that slide I just showed you, everything's there on this page to engage the patient, to keep them there, and then to have them convert into a contact form. And since we added these review widgets all over our site last year, we have had a very large increase, and I'll show you in just a minute. I thought it was the next slide here. So here's the new rules that we're dealing with. Authentic storytelling sets the tone, but it's the storytelling, let the patients do the storytelling. Content is the link between the doctors and the patients, and let your patients provide that content. And data is going to provide a more scientific approach, so your Google Analytics can let you know that know your conversion rate to contact us form before you put this content on your pages, and then monitor it afterwards. Responding to what patients are looking for will bring new patients to your practice from those that are already visiting your site. All right, so here's the slide. This is looking at our practice from year over year, and 2014 is the blue line. And what you will see is once the review content was added, what happened to us is that fewer pages were read, less time was spent, but 80% more leads from virtually the exact same amount of traffic. And who could ask for a better change in consumer behavior? So what this tells me is that we provided the content that the consumer needed to convert. And the review content was right there on our website. That's what they needed to know. That was the next thing in their buying process. And since it was right there, they didn't need to leave us and go elsewhere. The compelling story and the next step in their buying process was there. All right, so now let's go to first aid. And what we're talking about here is leveraging consumer insights to grow sales and drive loyalty and advocacy. And loyalty and advocacy are retention and referral. So when the consumer moves through our care cycle, they're evaluating us on these criteria of satisfied to highly satisfied. What we're looking at only is highly satisfied. And the reason we do that is because if they're a 1 or 2, they're not buying from us. In fact, they perform malcontent behavior. If they're neutral or even only satisfied, they move among providers, and indeed they're not probably not buying from us, or they buy from us at 50% of the level of someone who's highly satisfied, and the same for referrals. And then if they're highly satisfied, they schedule at higher rates, they refer at higher rates, they stay in our practice. And so this is looking at recommendations, double likelihood, almost double likelihood to schedule, to recommend the surgeon, double likelihood to schedule at consultation from a satisfied versus a highly satisfied patient. And this is looking at what happens in terms of loyalty and retention. This is just another way of looking at what I was just showing you. They're either defecting, they're indifferent, or they're going to become your advocate. And this is looking at from Yelp's when they published their ratings distribution. This is what it looked like. 41% of the reviews on Yelp showed people who were in that highly affectionate zone, giving 5s. 38% of the reviews were from people who were indifferent, and 21% of reviews were from people who were in that defection area. And meanwhile, in verified reviews, you can see how different a story is told by the patient. Very small number of people saying that they're in that defection area, and a really relatively small number saying they're indifferent to the practice. And then this is looking at my practice, because I can't do everyone's in Google, but you can see that actually my Google account has higher affection, and then defection and indifferent are each 5%. So the overall, my message to you is that we want to build our practice on a core strategy of customer service. And we want to demonstrate that through a system in which we can share that core strategy with our ratings and review, which reflect our quality. So when taking advantage of the new realities, it's much easier to make your practice fantastically successful. You don't need to struggle about this. It's nothing to fear. Ratings and reviews are really nothing to fear. And I want you to realize that. And if we have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks, Marie. We do have a couple of questions. First being, what does an in-office process look like to ask for reviews? How do you do that in your practice, and do you have any good ideas about how to ask patients for that?
I think that one of the things is I do think it's extremely important for the physicians to ask. No one can get a better yes from the physicians. We have something written on the back of our business card. It's a link to a page on our website that gives them instructions about where to go and how to post. An email to the people with the Gmail accounts is also very useful. One of our doctors has been particularly successful with Yelp because he had a problem on Yelp, and so he just asked patients, "Are you a Yelper?" because he was actively working on getting his Yelp rating up. And so I think knowing where those scores are and knowing where you need help, but it's a daily process. And when someone's happy, asking them to help you and following up. Another thing we've done is following up. Thank you for offering to help, and here's a link to mailing a link to not only to the back of the card, but mailing a link to where to go on our website to look for instructions about what to do.
Mailing, like in the actual U.S. mail?
No, emailing.
Oh,
Beg your
email.
pardon.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would try sending it in the U.S. mail too.
Okay.
All right. Next question is, how do you monitor your scores, and how frequently do you look at them or worry about them?
Well, I'm as on Yelp, so I get a notice every time a score is posted, and so I monitor it in that way. If it's false, and I would say at least once every 6 weeks I have an attack by a competitor, so I have to deal with that and complain about it, and I have fairly good luck actually getting Yelp to take them down because they're clearly fallacious.
Mm-hmm.
And and I monitor that. Google Plus, frankly, I have to say, we have a social media team and they monitor that. And and I know I trust the Google Plus process. And we've found one, silly one on there that clearly wasn't a patient, and we protested on that, and I have yet to see whether that protest has been successful, but they do have a protest process.
Thank you. Next question is, where does the ripoff report fall in your generations rating, and what do you do to recommend to overcome a negative review on that site? And I can actually weigh in on that one. This is Eva
Please
Shea.
do.
I handle our online strategy, and I spend most of my time in the figuring out how stuff works on the internet. So the ripoff report is a special brand of evil, and really the only thing you can do is create enough content on other sites to push the ripoff report down. And I say this all the time. If you have a bad review somewhere, if you have something showing up in a search result that's troubling you, just never, ever, ever click on it. Leave it alone, ignore it, and don't fuel the fire, because clicking on it is probably telling Google that it's interesting to people. So take a screenshot of it if you need to look at it again and refer to that screenshot, but try to leave it alone. It's like the itch that you should never scratch. So really the best solution is to push it down with other content. The more real content you have, and the better off you're going to be. And then that something like rip-off report will look very small if you have hundreds of other real reviews to read, instead of it just being the only thing.
What we're doing is by publishing to your website is what you're trying to get is a search for your reviews to show your practice in the first store, certainly the first and ideally the second place on a review search, real patient ratings to be within the top 4, and to push other things down. So if rip-off report is on page 1 of a Google search for you, what Eva's talking about is trying to get other content, particularly content from your own website, to show up and to push that off page 1.
And see, if you look at what's on the screen right now, we even use an ad to push something else down off the page in the very first spot. So that's the easiest, quickest, cheapest way to push one thing down. And for the person who's asking me that, I'm happy to talk about it offline and give you a lot more info and look at it in depth. So if you want to reach out when we're done, I'm happy to talk about that. We have actually another really good question here, Marie.
Mm-hmm.
Cosmetic surgery seems to have patterns of highs and lows in terms of patient flow. Some months are busier than others, understandably. What do you suggest for physicians that are going through these low months? The physician that I work for is well marketed through his website, Real Self, Real Patient Ratings, Google, etc.
I just, I sort of anticipate the low months. I use the low months to work um, on our website, for the physician to go on vacation, for us to work on all our internal processes, for us to add content to our website, for us not to panic. And you just historically have these seasonal issues. And I think if you make positive progress during these quiet times, and you can point back to say, look at everything we've done, then reach out, have specials. Um, I, I just think right now we just made some software changes, and so we decided September is the perfect time to change software because it's part of our low time of the year, and we can focus on it. And we're focusing on, making clearly on this review data. We're looking at where else can we put reviews on our website, where else can we make sure patients are seeing reviews as a part of their experience with us, even though we think we're doing it well. Based on this data, we can't leave it to chance at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can you share with us what your internal process is for handling internet leads in order to close as many as possible?
Yes. Are you talking relative to reviews or just internet
just in
leads,
general?
period?
In general, how do you handle
Okay.
email leads?
Okay, so they come into a general mailbox, which is called lookgreat@ljcsc.com. We're a group practice, so we have multiple coordinators. They're almost immediately distributed to multiple coordinators, and the first one we have the goal of handling it within 20 minutes. So we try to see who's available. We send out a quick little email saying, "Hi, I'm available to talk to you right now if you're available," and hope to catch the person immediately to the phone. And the reason that we do that is our practice capture rate, which is from email to surgery, is about 19%, and from phone call to surgery is closer to 40%. So if we can get that email lead converted to a phone call, we cut the amount of work we have to do in half, or we double their likelihood to schedule, however you want to think about it. Both of them are true. So that's our first step, is to try and get them on the phone. And then if we're not able to do that, then we follow up with what you would call a traditional email response, sort of short and catchy and answering their questions, and a link to our website with reviews about the procedure or the doctor. Oh, it's actually procedure, isn't it? To the procedure page, making sure they've seen it. And then when we confirm appointments, we confirm them with a link to that doctor's reviews. So if you can imagine, in your phone, in your appointment confirmation is a link, and it just looks absolutely beautiful. It sort of fills up the screen of your phone, and you can just scroll through their reviews. It's extremely powerful. And the patients have started coming in and saying to the doctors, I feel like I already know you, or because we have a one-to-one relationship with the nurse is the doctor's nurse, like Ruth is Dr. Saltz's nurse. They'll say, I already feel like I know you, because they've read reviews about Dr. Saltz and her nurse Ruth. And so and that bridge from being strangers to feeling like you know each other, that bridge has to be crossed before someone can schedule. And that confidence and all those comments from other people, I think my belief is that accelerates scheduling, it accelerates trust, and it creates a differentiator. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel we're a better practice and a stronger practice through this process, um, really, than we've ever been. And that's saying a lot for me,
Mm-hmm.
for 25 years of working with this practice.
So this next question might be a little controversial, and I don't want you to feel like you have to answer it, but
Hmm.
one surgeon is asking, what practice software do you recommend?
Well, I'm actually just in the midst, just yesterday, we went to Patient Now, and they have made a group of almost 50 changes to the software in order to make it work for us. And we are next week going to Emma, which is Modernizing Medicine's EMR. And what drove both of these changes was the fact that we have this med spa, which is in a different location than our surgical practice, and we're moving patients between the two of them. And Inform and Enhance, which is what I created 20 years ago, cannot manage a med spa, and we can't two charts. We can't maintain continuity of care between two locations, and so it was just an imperative to be able to manage a med spa with the same kind of control of a patient experience that I could have with I&E, but I couldn't have it unless I changed software.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Thank you.
mhm.
Last one. I think we're almost out of time. It's getting close to the end, and we will send out a recording when we're done. So if you want to listen to it again, it'll be there shortly. But also, please feel free to call us and ask us anything that's on your mind. So the last question that I have for you, Marie, is, do you feel the web is really the best avenue for marketing? And have you seen much progress or had any success with commercials, radio, magazines, etc.?
I have not, and I'm I really have not, and I think there's such huge sums and it's, again, go where the patient is. And when you look at this review analysis, to me, if I'd say do those things if you've solved everything else and you still have money you want to burn. But first, go where the patient is and where she's focused on making her decision. And probably the other thing, of course, is video. And that's my great weakness in my own practice. And so My thing would be focus on your own website. Your own website has to engage the patient, and they should be making the decision based on your own website, the investment in your own website.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hmm.
That's all the time we have. So everybody look for our follow-up email, take a minute and fill out our little 4-question survey. And if you're going to Chicago for the ASPS meeting, please make sure you come say hi and see us. And have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.